ADD, ADHD. This is kind of an interesting topic to me because I think it's connected to so many different people. You got the parents involved. You might have the teacher involved. You might have the government involved. You have the kid involved. How should Christians, we'll get more into that, but how should Christians be thinking about this particular idea or disorder?
Well, like every other disorder we've talked about so far, you will see, what's the word? Unpack it.
Yeah.
What are the symptoms that cause this diagnosis to be given? And then
how could a 5-year-old have symptoms?
Well, hyperactivity, attention deficit, that the words all by themselves give us some indication of what the symptoms probably are. Uh-huh. He probably sits in the classroom and he just runs all around the room, or he stares off out the window, or he's got attention deficit. The teacher's talking and he's over here taking Susie's pencil, and he's over here messing with Johnny's hair.
Yeah.
So those are symptoms. But then
how's that a symptom when it's just Johnny is picking up a pencil off Susie's table? Like why would we turn that into a symptom?
Because he's not supposed to be doing that right then.
Okay.
So like all psychological symptoms, they are behaviors.
Right. Anger.
There's no tests. Yeah. There's no blood tests. There's no other kind of tests. They're all anger, stealing, poking, teasing, whatever it is. So there's always symptoms that give you the diagnosis, and again over a period of time and that kind of stuff.
Right.
So I would want to know, what are the symptoms, and then let's talk about those symptoms. Let's take them out and set them on the table. Why is Johnny bouncing off the walls? What did he have for breakfast? What did he have any sleep last night? Stuff like, what's his parents' situation like? Is he angry? Is he lonely? Is he, what's going on in his life?
Right.
So, and overwhelmingly, there are answers to all of that. He could be, for example, trained to never pay any attention to the teacher.
Right.
Because at home, he never is trained to pay attention to his parents. So I think it was Tom Garfield that said a long time ago, it's not really ADD, it's PDD. Parents don't discipline.
Oh, disorder. That's a disorder because that's not normal or shouldn't be normal.
Yeah.
That brings me to my next question here is I don't want to.
Let me say something real quick about
please.
that. I do think there are children who genuinely have ADD, who genuinely have something wrong in their brains. Uh-huh. The same with most of these. There really is something happening, but that's a brain damage thing. It's a physical thing. It's a genuinely medical thing. It's not a psychological
thing. You can see it
thing.
and observe it.
Well, if you could see it, you could see it. I don't know if you can see it in if you did a
CAT scan or something.
Yeah, I don't know if you could do that, but I do think there are probably people who genuinely have something wrong in their brain in the ADD area.
Right.
An area like alcoholism or something like that. That's another one of those words that we use. It's a psychological word that doesn't tell us anything. Mm-hmm. Where if you call them a drunkard, that's different. It's a habit. It's a choice they're making.
Yeah.
It's
and we'll
different.
get more into alcoholism coming up. I don't want to trivialize ADD, ADHD. I think you helped a little bit that there can be, some mental brain damage challenges there. But it does seem to me that ADHD and ADD, those disorders, you're making me hate that word now.
Yes, I'm winning.
It's winning. It's working. That there really is a parental problem, like Tom Garfield said. It really is a parental problem.
Often.
And not a kid. I mean, I was an active kid at 5. What boy at 6 years old, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old is not active, wanting to bounce off the walls?
Yeah. And they want them to act like the little girls in the room, and they're not little girls.
Right.
Well,
right. That's right.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I do think there are occasionally kids, like autistic kids, there's a spectrum of autism. Mm-hmm. So from a kid who's staring at the wall.
But autism's not objectively demonstratable in the body.
Well, I don't know that it is. You're right, but it also may be a function of other things going on. I would say that some of the autistic kids I've seen genuinely have something wrong in their brains.
Yeah,
like if they can't talk, for example.
Right. The behavior is just so severe. It's like there's got to be something more going on here.
Yeah.
We might not be able to determine it, but
right. So I wouldn't. In the psychological world, I would assume someone who's been diagnosed with ADD has ADD. Uh-huh. I would say if someone comes in who has been diagnosed with ADD, I would say let's check. Let's ask some questions.
Yeah, right.
Let's see if it's the parents or the teacher.
You wouldn't take it at face value.
No, I didn't take that with any of them.
Right. How do you? So okay, all right. You got a parents and their 5-year-old in the room. How do you begin to untangle, Johnny's just ADD?
And ask questions. What's your life like? What is your home life like?
Do you want the parents to answer those questions or the kid to answer those questions?
Well, I'd start with the parents, but I would ask the kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then,
if he's 5 years old, he still has answers. He still talks.
Right.
He still knows what's going on. He's still making choices. Mm-hmm. So it's like sin. The Bible says that people can cause other people to sin, but it also says we're all responsible for our own sin. So what it means by cause is presents the opportunity, tempts them to sin. Mm-hmm. So I'm tempted to sin, but then I choose to sin. And so a 5-year-old is choosing to sin.
Yeah.
But he's also been trained that way by his parents, and he's tempted by Susie's cool pencil over there.
Yeah. So take the, maybe truly ADD cases out of the way, the cases where maybe even there's a mental disability there, mm-hmm. and let's look at just kind of the broad state of ADD.
Okay.
Parents, it seems like ADD has increased as parents have spanked less and less over time.
Right.
It really does seem like there's an inverse relationship there in what's going on between discipline and kids being diagnosed with ADD. And then let's not even talk about the public school issue, because it seems a lot of the government actually is incentivized to diagnose kids with ADD. I have a number of friends who are public school teachers, and they get more money if they have more kids who have disorders or ADHD and are taking medication, stuff like that per those kids.
Yeah.
So there's all sorts of incentives for this to grow and become a bigger thing.
Yeah.
But
not to mention the pharmaceutical companies and the doctors.
Wanted. Young men to rebuild Western civilization. Must be unafraid of pain, blisters, intellectual rigor, and a lifetime of long shifts with swords and shovels, digging ditches, repelling invaders, and reading stacks of books taller than their fathers. Must be impervious to manipulative women of all sorts, giggling virgins, cyber skanks, and even full cauldrons of Karens or hand-wringing clergy, but always seeking to hear and heed the words of Lady Wisdom. Immune to the leadership of hypocrites and LARPing online masculinitods, unaffected by abusive authorities, petty professors, and all brokers of official respectability. Willing to hoist the Jolly Roger and Johnny Cash's favorite finger whenever faced with idolatry. Long-suffering joy and determination required. Must be willing to dwell among the tombs and graves of the long dead, seeking truths that cannot die. Exhaustion guaranteed. Conflict guaranteed. Mortality guaranteed. New St. Andrews College. Liberal arts for the undaunted.
Welcome to CrossPolitic. We know last night you were very, very busy loving your family, and you don't like the taste of light bulbs.
chewing light bulbs.
And so we thought you missed everything that happened last night on Fox News with Kamala Harris on Bret Baier show. But we thought we would just give you a little summary of what happened.
Donald Trump, 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 and Donald Trump, Donald Trump.
President Biden had a fundraiser debate stage.
Let's go back to Donald Trump, Donald Trump, Donald Trump, Donald Trump.
Wow.
We didn't want you to miss out on chewing light bulbs. And so you might be wondering, like, what did she say afterward? What was the post conversation like?
Yeah.
Well, we actually have that conversation too.
It was really tough. It was fun. I enjoyed it. It was definitely a different ball game, but I had a blast. So thank you.
Yeah.
Mm.
She had a blast.
She had
a blast.
Yeah. Yeah.
We
We all did.
Two things here.
Yeah.
One is, the lady in that clip doesn't even mean it for herself in the
Oh, no, you knew she was lying.
fight. Yeah.
There's no way.
She's lying to herself, just like Kamala would be if she was saying that. The other thing about that clip, actually, I don't like that clip.
No.
Because in the same way I don't like Kamala being president, it's dehumanizing.
That's right.
That clip is dehumanizing to a woman who shouldn't be beat up like that, who shouldn't be in the ring like that.
Yes.
And the same way Kamala shouldn't be president. That's
exactly
not how God intended it.
That's an area of war that men are supposed to be in, and we don't put women in those kind of positions to get beat up like that.
Yep.
And it's really sad that that's what happened.
We got more coming. Are you looking for the Office 365 competitor? Microsoft competitor. Or maybe like
people still use Microsoft
Google Docs competitor. Yeah, man. Ugh.
I don't even...
For the parallel economy, look no further than Pax Mail, Pax Email. They got a whole office suite actually that's competitive with Google and so forth, and of course 365. So calendars, contacts, appointments, forms, and so forth. Check it out. Privacy matters. We don't sell ads. We safeguard your data like it's our own. We also believe in protecting innocence. Pax Mail believes that every child deserves a chance at life. Interesting.
Kind of important.
How do they do that? That's why we use a portion of our proceeds to support initiatives to save children from abortion. Join the movement to be a part of something bigger. Help us build our parallel economy and keep the money in the family. Join Pax Mail and let us build brighter futures together. Visit paxmail.cc. Pax as an X. Paxmail.cc.
Especially if you're using Microsoft. Like, what's wrong with you?
We use Pax Mail. Their customer service is fantastic. We love working with them. All our CrossPolitic emails and Fight Laugh emails are actually going through Pax Mail, and we're very grateful for that. Now, this is kind of a shameless plug. I'm sorry.
You used to.
Discover the world of premium cigars. How selfish is that? With 1689cigars.com. At 1689 Cigars, you'll find an exquisite. I got to talk to my guy who wrote this. Exquisite selection of hand-rolled cigars crafted from the finest tobacco. Whether you're a seasoned aficionado or new to the cigar scene, 1689 Cigars will cater to your palate. Visit 1689cigars.com today. Elevate your smoking experience and your joy in the Lord. Yeah, it kind of goes hand in hand a little bit. You smoke a cigar, you enjoy God better. Go to 1689 Cigars today and buy all. Just click the buy all button. Buy them all. I'm one of the owners in 1689 Cigars, and I run it with a couple other pastors out of Kentucky. It's a lot of fun. So
we get free cigars in since you don't.
We get free cigars. Yeah, you guys got it about every quarter. I give you guys some free cigars.
About to re-up time.
Yeah, we got some new prototypes. We're testing out. We order new cigars. We kind of call them prototypes, and then if they're good
testing
enough,
out y'all cigars.
If they're good enough, we actually onboarded them, brand them out. Good enough. 1689cigars.com. My friend and his house, Lennox, California.
No,
was that close? Was that close?
Close enough.
Close enough for a white guy.
Why don't you get close to that mic? Because you're going to have to interrupt.
If you notice, you got to eat that mic, Yeah. Hey, we're two hunks. We're two Negroes and a hunk serving the Lord.
Yeah, please.
You know that song?
I'm more offended by your singing than
that song?
I know. Your singing is, I'm sorry, it's California.
California.
That's right.
Yes,
I was close. He serves as the digital engagement officer at New St. Andrews College, where he leverages his expertise as a seasoned communicator. An accomplished writer, journalist, podcaster, public speaker, Lennox is known for his impactful contributions to cultural apologetics and Christian worldview development. His incisive writings have appeared in esteemed publications such as Forbes, American Thinker, The Sentinel, and The Classical Difference. Sorry, guys, my voice is going to have a hard time today. And EU Today.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
You haven't written for us yet, huh?
No, we got to get them in our magazine.
Yeah.
Providing thoughtful, provoking insights for readers navigating today's complex cultural landscapes. Lennox is also a devoted family man, married to Simbi. Did I get her name right?
That's right.
Simbi, with whom he shares the joy of raising their 3 beautiful children. Lennox, thank you for coming on the show, man.
Yeah, thank you. It's good to be here. My only one disappointment is I'm in Toby's chair.
Yes.
I fully expected to read the ads on his camera with the teleprompter.
We should have had him read an ad.
Oh, that's right. We usually do have some. Yeah, that's right.
We should have had
Dude,
him.
I'm sorry that you have to be here on this particular day to deal with this stuff. But
well, you mentioned chewing light bulbs earlier.
Yes.
That's what it definitely feels like. But, any excuse to hang out with you guys.
Yeah, well, I wanted to ask you before we move any further. Did you see? Wait, what is your status as American? Are you American now? What you got dual citizenship?
What are you?
Because this is gonna matter pretty soon in the conversation.
Yeah, exactly.
What your status is here?
It's kind of weird. Okay, well, I'm Zambian.
Yes.
Here's the funny thing: I do pay taxes in America.
Yeah, we make sure that.
Yes. Which I believe in the state of Idaho makes me eligible to vote.
Oh, really?
Well, that and
yeah, you should vote then.
Apparently.
Is that real?
We'll see. Yeah, apparently it's a whole thing right now.
Whoa.
So we'll see.
So if you're paying taxes in Idaho, you could vote, even though you're not a citizen of Idaho.
I believe that's what it is at the moment.
You better be wrong about that.
I hope I'm wrong
about it. Fact check that. Somebody fact check.
Wow.
Well, I wanted to ask you. So you know, what is it that Kamala came out with her whole initiative for Black America, Black American man or Black man? I don't even know if it has to be American, but did you see her little love letter and everything? I just wanted to see if you saw and what you thought about it.
I did.
She's like, I'll give you money and weed.
Yeah, pretty much. No, quite literally. Pretty much. Like the subtitle was literally Donald Trump as a threat to Black American lives, or something like to Black men's lives.
Okay.
Right? Like it's quite patronizing in that sense.
100%.
And then just as you're saying, like in the list there, it's like, well, I'm just going to give you handouts and I'm going to legalize marijuana.
Yeah.
Because we know how much Black men need marijuana to.
Here's your money and your guns.
If we don't have it,
we don't have it. That equality cannot be realized. So it's a patronizing read.
Yeah. So you're totally voting for her.
Absolutely. Because she's looking out for me. That's what it is.
She's watching out.
Yeah. $20,000.
What's election? So you guys should go listen to. We've had Lennox on the show previously. We kind of go into his background, his life a little more detailed. So we'll kind of pass that a little bit. But what's it like with election season in Zambia? I mean, because we're going to walk through, Fox News and Bret Baier's interview with Kamala Harris, but like, do you guys have some of the funniness that we have with like, do the politicians tour on TV and debates and all that stuff?
Debates, not so much. But yeah, election season is always a big thing. It's always a big deal. The interesting thing in Zambia is, one positive is that Zambia actually has more of a democratic system than the average African country.
Okay.
Right. So for example, there's been 3 different political parties at the helm of leadership in the last 15 years.
Okay.
Right. Like that's just not something you hear in Africa. So that's a positive. The other side of it is that Zambia's yet to vote in a president. They're almost always trying to vote out a president. Right. So people aren't really thinking policy. In many ways, it's a contest for personality. Yeah. Right.
Well, we're there right now too. I don't think anybody.
Which is actually what I was gonna say. Like I've been listening to debates, kind of following everything going on this year, and I'm like, this sounds very familiar. So
that's not comforting.
Yeah,
interesting.
It shouldn't be comforting.
Is it so they do like interviews like this one-on-one with the press or a big journalist in Zambia?
Yeah, from time to time. The one difference is America has fundamentally 2 political parties that are going at it. Zambia has several.
Okay.
So it's never just
what's the topics? Because like we're debating on transgenderism and this abortion, like crazy
Y'all
stuff.
got man and girl sports yet?
Not yet, but I see that in the near future.
Don't be like us.
Yeah.
Don't be like us.
Well, I mean, to give you guys something interesting, Kamala visited Zambia last year.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I would have preferred she stayed there with you.
Why did we wish Zambia would have kept her?
Yeah. I don't know. There's kind of a funny story about this. Someone needs to cover this at some point. You know how Kamala keeps speaking about how she grew up in a middle-class family? All that stuff. I believe her father was a diplomat in Zambia. Right. Kamala actually lived in Zambia when she was a little girl.
Oh, really?
Right. Like there's actually pictures.
I thought it was
of
Jamaica.
Well, Zambia is somewhere there. Like Jamaica could have been one of them, which is a very privileged life. I just want to put that out there.
If she's a diplomat, her dad's a diplomat.
Interesting.
That's a pretty privileged life.
She said middle class.
Yeah. But yeah. So anyway, she was touring Zambia among many other African countries. And in several countries, she was actually kind of bullying people on the whole LGBTQ thing. Just telling them, hey, you got to get your act together. Kind of giving these implicit threats. That
no more American money.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So she was absolutely up to no good.
And that didn't play well there. I'm hoping.
Well, on one hand, I'd say publicly it didn't play well. My concern is that behind the scenes, handshakes have already been exchanged and deals have already been made.
So my question is, what topics are generally like the hot topics in the Zambia election season?
I could boil it down to one thing: who can give more handouts?
So y'all just like us.
Yeah. So I mean, Zambia is pretty much premised on a very socialist framework, right? So social welfare is just the order of the day. So the campaign season is usually about which government can give more handouts than the next.
Yeah,
right.
right.
That's generally it. So
okay,
yeah.
So as everyone knows,
Now
last
we're-
night
yeah.
was Kamala's first real interview, probably in the last 5 years.
You say real.
Real. I mean,
It was her hardest for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it was the only interview where she's ever really been challenged.
I think what was it? 60 Minutes was her first real interview.
Oh, that's true.
I think 60 Minutes was
wasn't bad.
they did a great job.
It wasn't bad.
Yeah.
He could have pressed her
But
a
that
little
wasn't
better,
necessarily opposition interview.
No,
right.
no.
I think
But,
Trump has been way more.
Kamala's first, let's say, conservative interview, even though Fox isn't that conservative station, and Bret Baier has had some great wins, some great losses in my book as a journalist. But she would, nevertheless, this was probably her 8th, 9th interview since she's been running for president. So hardly any. I mean, Trump's in his 80 interview right now. Who knows? Whatever. So Kamala shows up on Bret Baier yesterday, and then here's we're gonna take you through a number of clips, so you don't have to watch the whole interview. I was watching it last night. First of all, I got this massive head cold. I got a headache. I'm not feeling well. Trying to watch this interview, it's just so nauseating listening to her long-winded answers. But this is her. One of the questions Bret asked her, which was a good question on okay, are you an extension of Biden? What are you doing here? Are you going to be a Biden 2.0 in your administration? Here you go.
We've heard a lot about those plans in recent days. Your campaign slogan is a new way forward, and it's time to turn the page. You've been vice president for 3.5 years. So what are you turning the page from?
Well, first of all, turning the page from the last decade in which we've been burdened with the kind of rhetoric coming from Donald Trump that has been designed and implemented to divide our country and have Americans literally point fingers at each other.
10 years? Does that include Obama?
I'll let you have this one. Lennox, you get to go first because I'm going to do my math real quick because I thought she said 10 years.
No, she said 10 years.
Okay, yeah.
Right? And for the last 3.5, she's been the vice president. Right?
That needs to be repeated
ago,
so much time.
That's right. 10 years ago, Obama was still president.
Yeah, I thought so.
And he was divisive. People don't remember how divisive the Obama administration was.
Absolutely.
Especially in the race category. And also, remember, he got the nickname Obama in chief.
Right.
For bombing nations with drones.
Right.
If I was thinking about 10 years ago, was that when they legalized gay marriage?
That sounds
right. I think it was 2014 when that whole thing happened because that was 2 years into that was
2015. I think Obergefell was 2015.
Was it 2014, 2015?
Yeah.
I mean, if she's talking about that, we want some change from that. I absolutely agree with her, but I don't think that's what she meant by it.
No.
But 10 years, woof.
Yeah.
Whew.
So here's Donald Trump. This is probably, I would say, one of my favorite moments of the interview. Actually, was when Bret Baier asked her about Donald Trump's stability character.
This was huge.
Yeah.
You call Donald Trump. He's misguided. You say now
he's unstable. He is unstable, Brett.
He's not well. You say he's mentally not stable.
He's not stable.
Let me ask you this. You
and
told many interviewers that Joe Biden was on his game, that ran around circles on his staff. When did you first notice that President Biden's mental faculties appeared diminished?
Joe Biden, I have watched from the Oval Office to the Situation Room, and he has the judgment and the experience to do exactly what he has done in making very important decisions on behalf of the American people.
There were no concerns raised?
Brett, Joe Biden is not on the ballot.
I understand.
And Donald Trump
but
is.
You talked about it.
And Donald Trump
After George Clooney said within a few minutes of talking to President Biden at a fundraiser that he thought this was not the same Joe Biden that we saw on the debate stage.
Donald Trump is on the ballot.
I understand. You met with him at least once a week for 3.5 years. You didn't have any concerns?
I think the American people have a concern about Donald Trump, which is why the people who know him.
Listen, I didn't notice this the first time. So Bret later talked about how that, hey, when I was doing the interview, they started giving me the hands, like wrap it up. A bunch of aides were running around here wrapping it up. If you go back and listen to that clip, you start hearing people walk around. Did you hear that?
No, I didn't.
You hear them walking around in the background.
Making noise.
The aides are like, whoa! Yo, shut this joker down.
Wow.
Wrap this up, turn the lights off, unplug the cameras. We are out this joint.
Yeah.
I mean, that is, why didn't Bret, and I don't want to, because I don't think this interview was about Kamala. I don't think this interview at all was a win for her. I think this was a bad move. Their team should have never, ever, ever let her do this. They didn't have to. If they're going to cheat, let them cheat and do whatever they want to do. Don't make yourself look this bad. She looked horrible. This was a win for Bret.
Yeah.
This was a win for journalism. This was a win for Fox.
Yeah.
And this was pure entertainment for everybody else. Right? Yeah. But the thing that Bret should have done, because I don't want to really poke at Bret too much, because I think he did a great job. Was ask the question.
It's a tough job.
This was a very tough job.
Because she kept going on
because
and on and droning on.
The optics of having a woman up there and having to interrupt her and to engage with her.
And also, she's the vice president of the United States.
Absolutely. Can easily make you look bad as a journalist. And so he handled himself so well. Like, yo, Bret, salute to you. There's just one thing I wish he would have did.
What? One question.
I wish Bret would have said, then why are you running? And why did Biden have to suspend his campaign in the middle of it?
Yeah.
Right?
That's exactly right.
And because all of their argument was, and everybody, CNN, MSNBC, ABC, all of the people turned on Biden right after that last debate with him and Trump and said, yo, he ain't there. Like everybody said it.
Everybody.
I mean, that's the premise that she's even in
That's
the seat
here.
that she's in. Right?
That's exactly right.
She wouldn't be doing this interview if Biden was all the way there.
That's right.
And this is,
she wouldn't be in the seat at all.
This for me is devastating because everybody saw it. And if you try and tell me that my eyes don't work after I just saw them work and everybody's secure for me that they do work, and then you're going to lie to me.
Yeah. Because that's what she's doing.
Right here and act like that's not true and trying to tell me that Trump, the guy who is going around everywhere, by the way, having tens of thousands of people at his campaign, going on interviews, going on to podcasts where they don't get notes, they just have it out with them, right? What was it, Flagrant? He went on Flagrant. Yo, he was sharp. I mean, everywhere you've seen Trump, just off the cuff, he's doing all sort of town halls. The boy looks sharp. There was one video out there where Trump, I thought,
they put a spin on it.
Yeah, they put a spin on it where Trump is like, I think there was two medical conditions in the audience and they played music and Trump is swaying while they're taking care of the people. And everybody's like, oh, look at him. He doesn't know what to do. And it's like, no, there's medical conditions and he's paused
while they're trying to help the people in the crowd.
But he's spending more time talking to people, more time going out, engaging with Americans and answering their hard questions. And you want me to believe that he doesn't have the mental acuity that Biden has right now? Like, are you serious? No. This is not a good look for you right now in the realm of honesty.
And don't forget, like, another layer of this honesty is Bret's question was, you've been with Biden 3.5 years and you didn't pick up on anything?
Yeah.
Anything? I think we got a clip to solve this problem.
Best way to get something done, if it holds near and dear to you that you to be able to. Y'all ready for this? Anyway. From Charlotte, another line going from in Florida down to Tampa of Putin's kleptocracy.
Oh boy.
Yeah. America is a nation that can be defined in a single word.
Yeah, right there.
I was going to put him. The idea that for two reasons. One, we haven't been able to communicate it in a way that is. Let's say another way. But the nature. Not a solid meeting with they make a very good point. Here's the deal. Y'all ready for this? Here's what drives the driver in the states that are affected. Here's what you can do, the drivers. Los Angeles and what am I doing here?
What am I doing here? And if those are all public, I mean, there's way more examples than what we just showed you here.
I just want, before you say that, I just got to say, that guy is still president right now.
Yeah.
That guy is still the president right now.
And there's some infighting big time happening between Kamala's.
Of course there is.
campaign and his administration.
You know what she should have said? When did you know that he had some mental acuity problems?
Day one.
I didn't think that much of it until he put on the Trump hat, and then I was like, okay, the man's tripping. That's what I would have given her that score.
Turned into a 1. Yeah,
I could have given her that score, but
yeah.
I think, but part of it, what happens when she didn't actually get the votes to take over for the Democratic Party, and it was just handed to her.
Yeah.
She has to be careful to guard the people who really still want Joe.
Yeah.
And if she makes any sort of push against Joe, she's not in a place where she can risk that audience.
Right. Yeah, she's stuck.
And so she has to be very careful about how she answers there.
Which is, I mean, it's amazing to me. It's like if that's happening publicly, there's probably some serious stuff happening behind the scenes with Biden.
Right.
You know, diapers, whatever's going on behind the scenes, all the meetings he missed because he was too tired, or all the meetings he missed because he's going through, I don't know, an episode, whatever you want to call it. I mean, like there had to be there's some serious cover up going on here. And don't forget, the 25th Amendment puts the responsibility on Kamala Harris, on the VP.
Right. That's what I was going to say.
To bring forward a vote to deal with a president who's unfit to serve.
I was thinking that, like, if you're taking care of my grandfather and my grandfather is starting to talk and act like this and you're letting him go out and do stuff, and I'm looking at you some type of way.
Right.
What does it say about you and your care for him that you're allowing him? And this is the leader of the free world. And then I'm supposed to trust you if you can't see that? If you can't see that, how are you going to deal with world leaders who are going to directly in front of your face mislead you, misguide you, and lie to you in order to get what they want? How can I trust you to represent my best interest in this situation if you can't tell me that the guy who you serve under and are with every day, that he's not there anymore?
And remember, they tried to. You see in the first clip that we showed, the Democrats are constantly trying to say Trump's unfit.
Right. That's a new game.
Yeah.
No, they did that under Trump. When Trump was running, when he was president, they kept saying he's unfit. Remember, they would say that guy has the nuke codes.
Yeah.
Right?
Nobody believed them.
Biden has the nuke codes.
They're trying that again. They're trying that again.
Dementia Biden has the nuke codes. He probably can't remember.
No, he really does.
Probably written on his
Somebody
hand.
else got them. Somebody else got the code. So
well, I mean, if you think about it, mental stability has not been something the Democrats, the left, have advocated for, right? Which is why they're willing to supply all kinds of federal funding to people who have mental health conditions, right? To get sex changes, right? Like we can.
That's right. Really
that's exactly
point.
right.
We can't say that's something they care about specifically. The reason they brand Trump the way they do is because they think anyone who's not a Marxist is crazy. Right? Like that's kind of what it boils down to.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
So it's. That's not really a concern for them.
Yeah, I wouldn't trust. That's a really good point. I wouldn't trust somebody who thinks that a man can become a woman and a woman can become a man,
and they'll give him funding for it,
and give him funding for it. Will be able to have any sort of stability, mental stability, understand what that even means. Such a good point.
They celebrate it, they normalize it.
That's right.
They campaign on it.
So this is actually what you get when you have lost the natural understanding of nature.
Yeah,
and how God's made the world. Right? Yeah,
that's
of course.
a natural law argument, Knox. Very good.
Well, I believe in natural law.
I'm just kidding. I was on Jason Whitlock's show this last. I think it was.
There
July.
goes over there. You dropped that name. You dropped
Did
it. You want to pick that name up?
I'll pick it up.
Yeah, because you're just dropping names.
There
I was on the Whitlock show.
There goes Jason. But I said on the show that Joe Biden represents our nation very well. We have dementia. Like our nation has dementia. I mean, our nation has dementia about COVID right now. We forgot all the leaders that did all this damage and all this tyranny during COVID. In fact, we reelected all these leaders, or most of them, during COVID.
So then, if Kamala wins, the fact that she's even run, I think there's a meaning there. But what do you think Kamala represents? How does she represent our nation?
Well, I think she's representative, probably in the same way a little bit Deborah was representative, where all the men were cowards around Deborah. So I think that would be a part of the message. I think she also represents us just in terms of the wickedness in our church. I mean, judgment begins in the house of God. So whatever's happening in the church is going to come out to culture. And so Kamala's a product of a weak church, of a church that's being judged, in a church that is full of sexual sin in the church. It's full of cowardly pastors in the church. It's full of churches who
they don't even know what
they don't know what a man or a woman is. Right. Yeah.
You got the SBC that has to pull out a whole committee on the idea of what an elder is.
Yeah, what a pastor is. What is a pastor?
What is a pastor?
And then the other thing I was going to say was the church is I mean, well, this is full of word salad in their pulpit, full of like Kamala. I mean, Kamala just drones on and on. She is so hard to listen to.
Right.
Probably like most pastors, I would think. My guess is. So yeah, I don't know. That's off the cuff. Yeah.
Let's hopefully you don't have to worry about that anymore. Think too much about it.
So again, kudos to Bret. He pushes Kamala.
Bret
And
Baier,
pushes Kamala on the favorability of Trump over Kamala.
Madam
That
Vice
is
President, more than
turning the
70% of people
That is
tell
about turning the
pollsters-
page on rhetoric that people are frankly exhausted of, Bret.
More than
People are
70% of people
exhausted.
tell the country is on the wrong track. They say the country is on the wrong track. If it's on the wrong track, that track follows 3.5 years of you being vice president and President Biden being president. That is what they're saying. 79% of them.
Pause.
Why are they?
What do you think her answer is going to be?
Donald Trump. Gotta be.
There you go.
Gotta be.
There you go. Hit
Donald
play.
Trump.
Saying that if you're turning the page, you've been in office for 3.5 years.
And Donald Trump has been running for office.
But you've been the person holding the office.
Come on.
Madam
You
Vice
and I
President.
both know what I'm talking about. You and I both know what I'm talking about.
I actually don't. What are you talking about?
What I'm talking about is that over the last decade,
But you're
people
the
have
lever of
become.
power.
But listen, over the last decade, it is clear to me, and certainly the Republicans who are on stage with me, the former chief of staff to the president, Donald Trump, former defense secretaries, national security advisor, and his vice president. One, that he is unfit to serve, that he is unstable, that he is dangerous, and that people are exhausted with someone who professes to be a leader who spends full time demeaning and engaging in personal grievances and it being about him
Madam
instead
Vice
of
President,
the American people.
if
People
that's the
are
case,
tired of that.
Somebody get Bret a raise. This man needs to make a little more money just for this interview alone. Just for this. I'll let you have the first stab at this, my brother.
Yeah, that's a great way to define and describe what gaslighting is.
What gaslighting is?
Right? Yeah, like quite literally. It's like, well, people are dissatisfied with what this administration has done.
Yeah.
And her excuse is
Donald Trump, someone else.
You know, it's someone else. And trying to slam him. Like that's exactly what gaslighting is. No real coherence there, no real ability to be able to respond there. It's quite a joke, you know, and in doing so, she's disqualifying herself. So on one hand, I think there's this fear of associating with this last 3.5 years, even though she's been the actual vice president.
Double Dutch.
Right?
Yeah.
But then
she's kind of damned either way a little bit. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
But then she also has to own the idea that she doesn't have any new ideas that are different from what's been happening the last 3.5 years. You know, and because she's just empty, her biggest argument is Donald Trump running has been the biggest problem America's faced the last 3.5 years.
Well, and to your point, Bret pushed her on. What would you do differently than Joe Biden?
Right.
It's interesting you said turn the page, Madam Vice President. You were asked on 2 different shows last week what, if anything, you would do differently than President Biden. Here's what you said.
Would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind in terms of, and I've been a part of most of the decisions that have had impact.
It's your fault.
Under a Harris administration, what would the major changes be and what would stay the same?
Sure. Well, I mean, I'm obviously not Joe Biden.
I know.
And so that would be one change in terms of, but also I think it's important to say with, 28 days to go, I'm not Donald Trump.
So you're not Joe Biden, you're not Donald Trump, but nothing comes to mind that you would do differently?
Let me be very clear.
Please.
My presidency will not be a continuation of Joe Biden's presidency.
But you just said that.
And like every new president that comes in to office, I will bring my life experiences, my professional experiences, and fresh and new ideas. I represent a new generation of leadership.
But you've been in office for the last 3 years.
There's 3 options there. She's either lying about what she said that her administration will now be different, or she was lying that she wouldn't do anything differently about his administration. The third option is actually yeah, I was wrong. We're going to do it very differently.
Yeah.
Biden's policies haven't gone well for us.
Right.
Yeah, I see that. I think would have worked a lot better.
Yeah.
To just,
but you can't do that because
no.
she wasn't elected in the primaries.
Exactly.
To your point.
Exactly.
Yeah, right?
I think something else is so going back to even just to the last clip we played where he's like, okay, you know, what would you do? And it was not the one. What would you do differently? What was that last clip? Oh, I forgot what it was. The point I wanted to make about now I sound like Kamala Harris.
Was it the Colbert clip you're talking about?
Now see what happens. We play too much Kamala Harris, and I start turning into Kamala. I don't like this.
You're just droning on. Although I like your voice and tone better.
Well,
it's not nasally.
Well, no. So
voice.
one of the things I think Trump derangement syndrome is a real thing, which is why you can scream Trump all the time.
Yeah.
And so when somebody says, well, she said, oh, well, Trump has been, well, you've been in office for the last 3 years. Well, Trump has been running for president. That she's not, okay, she's a little crazy, but she's not stupid. She knows that works.
Right.
And this should be somewhat of a litmus test for people to say, if that works on people, play that clip. And if people say, that's right, Trump, you know that they have the syndrome.
Yeah.
And we should use that as a litmus test to be like, okay, you know, she didn't make an argument here, right? Yeah. There was no arguments made. She just said Trump. And when people do that, that means that there really is something wrong with people. They hate Trump so much that it doesn't matter if the other side has an argument or not.
That's right.
So long as we don't have that guy.
Yeah.
And
so that goes to, I think, why she did the interview. So she's only going on this interview because she knows that there's some conservatives out there who don't like Trump. And so she's trying to convince them. They haven't decided if they're going to vote for Trump or not. They don't like Trump. And so all she's trying to do is convince them that, hey, I'm your alternative vote.
I think they did this interview because they're losing.
Oh, yeah. I think that's part of it.
You got to remember.
She's got to pick up votes for sure. But she would have done this. If she was winning, she would have done this. She would have never did this interview if they were winning. Yeah. But everybody right now is talking. As soon as this caught wind that she was going to be on Bret's show, all of X was just playing clips and they need people to be talking about Kamala. Yeah.
Because the people who do have Trump derangement syndrome, at least gonna be like, yeah, you know what? I got to get out and vote.
Right.
We've been paying so much attention to Trump and what he's been doing. He's got these huge events that are just gathering people. They have to figure out how do we get inside their world and make sure that they're talking about us. Even if we don't like the outcome of what they're saying, they're talking about us and we can't pay for that type of attention.
Yeah.
So they had to do it. And I don't know. I mean, they might do it again. What are we like 14 days out now? Or 17 days?
Yeah, 18 or 17.
17 days out from the election. They need as much noise as they can possibly generate. And I think this is their last ditch effort.
Why do you think she chose Bret Baier, like not Sean Hannity, not, she went on, she chose this guy on Fox and not Sean Hannity or one of the other bigger names, actually.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Bret is just reasonable enough that he would not be too rude to her. Yeah. Where I think Hannity is going to be fussing at her the whole time.
Yeah, she's over. Yeah,
he's going to be fussing. And Bret's trying to get her to answer questions and stick to it. And I think that he's kind of the middle of the road, willing to. I think that's why they chose him, because otherwise Hannity would have just had her lunch.
Yep.
He would have just steamrolled her and everything.
So they get into immigration, and here's Bret asking her kind of about, is the Biden administration going to own that last 3.5 years of our immigration problems?
How many illegal immigrants would you estimate your administration has released into the country over the last 3.5 years?
Well, I'm glad you raised the issue of immigration, because I agree with you. It is a topic of discussion that people want to rightly have.
I grew up in a middle class family.
The only earrings she wears on interviews?
Because they can hear stuff.
Apparently so.
Yeah,
I'm a believer. Like at first when it came out, she wore these earrings and pictures started flying around. Hey, look at these earrings. These earrings are Bluetooth.
There was a video with her on some radio show, a podcast, and she's doing this to her ear a lot. And it was like, ooh, I don't want to believe the conspiracies, but I do want them tested. Let me just say that.
At this point, those are absolutely some sort of hearing aid communication to her staff. It has to be. My wife would not show up on 2 shows with the same earrings. None of our wives would.
Well,
absolutely.
And my wife wouldn't be
more
there.
Than 2 shows for her at this point.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There's like 8 interviews where she's wearing the same earrings. So go ahead, keep going.
And you know what I'm going to talk about.
Yeah, but
right
do you
now,
just a number? Do you think it's 1 million, 3 million?
Bret, let's just get to the point.
That was the goal.
Okay, the point is that we have a broken immigration system that needs to be repaired.
So your
And-
Homeland Security Secretary said that 85% of apprehensions.
I'm not finished. We have
It's a
an
rough
immigration
estimate of
system
6 million people
that
have been
needs to be-
released into the country. And let me just finish. I'll get to the question. I promise you.
I was beginning to answer.
I just think the whole, I mean, going back to your like gaslighting, just all over the place for sure, especially on the immigration issue.
Right.
There's another clip. I don't know if we have it here. Yeah, we moved it out of the rotation, but there's another clip where Brett's pushing her on the executive orders that Biden signed to undo Trump's executive orders that were holding up, that really helped with immigration policy and was ordering, border security and all this stuff to do this and that kind of thing. And it did prohibit immigration into our country. Biden on day one in January 2021, he signed a bunch of executive orders. I think it's like 100. Like it might have been the most executive orders ever signed on day one in a presidency.
Right.
And a lot of those executive orders had to do with illegal immigration and removing Trump's executive orders. This is why you want to pass things through Congress, because you want it to be more sticky, right? But removed a bunch of Trump's immigration executive orders, and Biden undid a lot of that. And as soon as that happened, illegal immigration started going up. Now, Kamala later on talks about, well, we tried to push a bill. You remember the bill, Knox? Do you have the bill?
The HR 1177.
Yeah,
Is that
HR
the one? Yeah,
1177.
that's what she goes to. Yeah.
We tried to push that bill. She said day one. It's like, but day one, you undone a bunch of immigration executive orders.
Yes, but that's what.
And then you try to push this bill through Congress on day one, which, like, it's not a bad play because she had the House and the Senate,
of course,
on day one.
Yeah,
and they couldn't get it passed.
Yeah, but then even before this, Gabe, like she was one of those people who was claiming that the border was secure.
Yeah, that's right.
Which
we
Brett
should have
actually
had a bunch,
pushed her on as well.
Yeah, that's right.
She was claiming there was no real border problem.
Yeah.
And now she actually has to concede that there is. And I think especially because the Border Patrol guys have come out and endorsed Trump.
The union, the Border Patrol union endorsed Trump.
Yeah, exactly.
Which he also brought up later too.
So this bill, I want to go into it more, and I plan to, but it's it's been like their kind of sticking part. Like, no, we had this bill, and we were going to get something done, but the person who just got out of the office,
we need a stinger.
Donald,
but Trump,
he stopped the bill. Now, by the way, I don't think that plays very well for them, because a guy who's not president is able to come in and has so much power that he can control Congress from where he is and stop the bill from getting going. But there's a lot of pork that was in that bill, and I want to go out and start digging out a little bit. But one of the things was that it had some protections. A bill that was supposed to be for illegal immigration had legitimate qua protections in it. Okay, why is that kind of pork in the bill? And some of the things too is just looking at this right here. It's like Department of Homeland Security. It's not that. They were supposed to give $4 billion of aid to Guatemala and El Salvador and Honduras, conditional on the ability to reduce corruption, violence, and poverty.
Wow.
Why are we sending them $4 billion so they can take? No. How about we keep our own money and we send the people back who are not here, right? Who don't have legal status. I'm not talking about you, because I guess since you pay taxes,
has legal status.
That's right. I've got legal status.
He did it legally.
Okay. I just wanted to be clear.
My brother-in-law's been in Mexico for two
I
years
just wanted to be
trying
clear.
to get legal status here.
I just want to be clear.
No, just on that point, honestly, I'm hopped up on this. It was a very long process for me to even be here, to get here, right? It would have been much more efficient.
I know
if
a faster
flew to
way.
Mexico and I walked
across the border. You might have got $400,000
so much quicker.
And a cell phone.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So that
like free healthcare,
maybe a card or something with some money on there.
Absolutely.
Have housing.
You notice he comes to Idaho and he starts growing his hair out.
That's because the barbershop.
He can't find a barbershop. Or is it too cold?
You see what I did to my hair?
Is it too cold?
Look at this.
It's that much more expensive here. It's just people don't know how to deal with this hair. Like, Knox, I have never understood you more in my life.
That's so funny.
You see why I did what I did,
so
right?
Funny.
Like,
absolutely.
Knox is like, screw it. I'm in Idaho. I'm just going bald.
I learned to cut my son's hair. Yeah, it's like, you know what? I'm cutting it all out because I can't find a barber to take care of it. Anyway, so I understand.
So
that's what it is.
We're going to take care of you, though.
That's so funny. So here's did you guys have anything to finish on that?
Oh, there's so much more to say.
Okay, all right.
No, we're good.
So Bret actually again pushes her on immigration and brings up kind of the situation that happened where illegal immigration actually killed this gal's daughter. Super tragic. But go ahead and play the clip.
The early part of your administration. I will let one of the mothers talk about it. Take a listen.
Because of the Biden-Harris administration open border policies catch and release, they were enrolled in the Alternatives to Detention program. This meant that they were released into the United States. It was not even a full 3 weeks later that they would take my daughter, Jocelyn Nungare's life. I believe the Biden-Harris administration open border policies are responsible for the death of my daughter.
That's the early days. So do you owe them an apology is what I'm saying.
I will tell you that I am so sorry for her loss. I'm so sorry for her loss. Sincerely. But let's talk about
Trump.
What is happening right now with an individual who does not want to participate in solutions.
Oh, that's bad.
Let's talk about that as well.
Trump.
But in all fairness, I told you, I feel awful for what she and her family have experienced.
Did Trump have a position in the Biden-Harris administration?
No position.
Like I must have missed that somewhere.
Yes, he's called the whipping boy.
You know, he's only been elected to office one time in his whole life.
Yeah,
and that's president of the United States for 4 years. That's it.
Yeah,
he's never run in any other.
But he can control Congress.
Apparently, he's got more power than we realize,
and more power than the vice president and the president himself.
But this is
when they had the House and Senate as Democrats.
Yeah, there you go.
Trump derangement syndrome does not help you be able to deal with problems well.
No.
I mean, when you hate Trump this bad, you can't. This was a great opportunity for her to use this.
Yeah.
When you have something like this, and they are responsible for their citizens in America, she should have taken this moment. She was halfway there to say, "Wow, this is horrible." And there are a lot of other people out there like her that I want to protect, which is why we should have passed this bill. And you know what? Here's some other things I'm going to do. I went down to the border. I was the czar. Oh, wait, she can't lean on any of her past, right? Because she really doesn't care.
No, she really didn't do anything.
But this was
she's got a horrible record.
She's got exactly. So she can't run on that.
Yeah.
But this would have been the opportunity for her to say, I don't want this happening in the nation that I run.
Again.
I will try my very best with everything that I'm going to do to make sure that we don't have this problem and that kids in America can live without worrying about other people from other nations who don't belong here, just to make sure that you fit in there. Don't kill our citizens. That's what that would have resonated at least with me. I wouldn't have believed that she could fulfill that promise,
but
I would have loved
because that throws Biden and the whole immigration policies that they worked on under the bus. She's trapped.
She's trapped.
Yeah.
She's trapped. But Trump. All right, Harris. All right, let's get into the economy here. So Harris, Bret gets into the economy. Go ahead and roll the clip.
Look at where we are, though.
They say
on plans for the American people,
move on.
I'm offering a plan to deal with affordable housing. I'm offering a plan to deal with what we need to do to strengthen small businesses, which are the backbone of America's economy. I'm offering a plan that is about taking care of young parents and giving them the support they need. My plans for the economy will strengthen the economy, as have been reviewed by 16 Nobel laureates, Goldman Sachs, Moody's, and recently the Wall Street Journal, which have all studied our plans and have indicated my plans for our economy would strengthen our economy. His would make them weaker, would ignite inflation and invite a recession by the middle of next year. Those are the facts.
Why do you think more people say they trust him on the economy than they trust you?
I think that when you look at an analysis of our plans for what we would do as president of the United States, it has been clear to those who study and understand how economic policy works that moving forward, because I do believe the American people are ready to turn the page on the divisiveness and the type of rhetoric that has come out of Donald Trump. People are ready to chart a new way forward, and they want a president who has a plan for the future and a plan that is sound and will strengthen our country. My plan for the economy does exactly that. His plan would be, again, to give tax cuts to billionaires and the biggest corporations in our country and blow up our deficit.
Her plan was studied by elites. Her plan was studied by the billionaires. Her plan was apparently the people who know how to read and know how to understand the economy. Those are the people who can understand her plan, not guys like me and you.
Who actually have to live in the economy. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I really do wish we had. I
It's
miss
elitist answer. That's an elitist answer.
It clearly
100%.
was an elitist answer, and it was degrading too, because it's kind of
100%.
like saying, "Listen, I know that you poor black guys are going to be on this weed and getting them loans. Y'all can't read, but listen, just trust me. I'll take care of everything for you." I miss Ron Paul. I wish more people were like this and talk like this and said stuff like, I really just want to get the government out the way and remove the red tape so that American citizens can serve American citizens, and I can just make sure that they don't lose their money. I just want to protect them to be able to serve each other well and create opportunities for other people. Because what we've seen, especially after the Moynihan report, is that when the government gets involved inside of the way that people can care for each other, we ruin everything. We have a very simple and narrow goal, and that is just to protect people, protect our borders, and let them build the economy. I want American citizens to build the economy without the government getting in and getting testy about it. And I just want to remove regulations. Where's that answer? I want that answer.
As much as I don't like George Bush
And
Jr.
you don't.
He has a great quote talking about the soft bigotry of low expectations. And that, I mean, like the Democratic Party, we have a clip here where Bret challenges her on, you think the American people are stupid? You know, but what's happening? The Democratic Party is fraught with this. You can bring the clip up. You can hit play when I'm ready. They're fraught with this, where they constantly are basically thinking of its people and its voters with like they aren't as smart as we are.
Right.
You know, we write the economic plans. You might not be able to read it, but the elitists say it's okay, so you should trust the elitists. You know, that kind of stuff. And so Bret actually challenges her a little bit on this point. It kind of came off a trail of other thoughts, but here's Bret kind of challenge her. Hey, do you think the American people are stupid?
So are they misguided, the 50%? Are they stupid? What is it?
I would never say that about the American people. What else do we know about this population, 18 through 24? They are stupid.
Well, there goes your answer.
There goes your answer.
Guys, you have to understand, maybe 18 to 24-year-olds aren't really American.
Maybe they're not American.
Well, because then, you know, I'm trying to help Kamala here a little bit. You know?
Don't. It's going to only hurt you.
Maybe the demographic around that are the ones that are not stupid. You know, I don't know.
I'm going to tell you this. When the government is the one who's giving you your education, they probably do think that you're stupid because they've been the ones educating you.
Yeah.
Right.
But then also a few years ago, they ran this play where elitists told them what to do. And wear cloths over their face, and
that's right.
We told them in a weird way.
You better preach,
and everyone complied.
You better preach.
So there's a sense in which I think Kamala is actually ribbing at that and mocking people because they've run this play and people fell for it before.
That is a very good point.
Yeah.
They sat up there and told you that you was going to die from a flu. Right. And they sit up there and told you wear a mask. And we have a shot for you.
We got your shot.
And anybody who don't take this shot is the new Negro. And you got to enter through the back door. And everybody, so many, large portion of America just went ahead and did it. So I think that she really does think that about us. It's so sad.
Absolutely.
All right. So lastly here, we got to get into this issue here because it's amazing to me. I asked you at the very beginning of the show, like, what issues does Zambia care about when politicians start running for office? Well, apparently in our elections, we debate abortion up to birth. We debate, transgendered surgeries. We debate dogs and cats, people eating dogs and cats. We debate illegal immigration.
You don't have an immigration problem in Zambia, do you?
No, not like this.
Right.
No.
Yeah. So we have, we should kind of go around each country and be like, what are the issues?
What do your elections look like?
The truth is most countries actually believe in closed borders.
Right.
Well,
Imagine
that. Zambia's landlocked in Africa.
Yeah, it is.
You guys got nations at every border.
It is. I think 9 different nations around Zambia. Right. So,
interesting for your nation.
Yeah.
So here's, first of all, Bret ran this Kamala ad that Trump put together talking about how supportive Kamala is of transgender surgeries.
Supports taxpayer-funded sex changes for prisoners.
Surgery.
For prisoners.
For prisoners. Every transgender inmate in the prison system would have access.
So are you still in support of using taxpayer dollars to help prison inmates or detained illegal aliens to transition to another gender?
I will follow the law. And it's a law that Donald Trump actually followed.
Donald Trump.
You're probably familiar with, now it's a public report, that under Donald Trump's administration, these surgeries were available to on a medical necessity basis to people in the federal prison system. And I think, frankly, that ad from the Trump campaign is a little bit of like throwing, stones when you're living in a glass house.
The Trump aides say that he never advocated for that prison policy and no gender transition surgeries
you know what? You got to take responsible for what happened in your administration.
No surgeries happened in his presidency.
It's in black and white.
Would you still advocate for using taxpayer dollars for gender reassignment
I will
surgeries?
follow the law, just as I think Donald Trump would say he did.
You would have a say as president.
Like I said, I think it's real. He spent $20 million on those ads, trying to create a sense of fear in the voters because he actually has no plan in this election that is about focusing on the needs of the American people. Whereas at $20 million on that ad, on an issue that, as it relates to the biggest issues that affect the American people, it's really quite remote. And again, his policy was no different.
So first of all, don't miss this. She said when these issues have a medical necessity, when does it become a medical necessity for someone to cut off a good functioning body part?
When I feel like it. Depends on what happens at the time of day.
There's never a medical necessity. That's the point.
That's right. Yeah.
Like if you're healthy, you don't break it.
Right. Yeah, you don't give yourself a flu when you're healthy. Like, you know what I need today?
Yeah.
I need the flu.
I'm healthy, so I'm gonna cut off my junk, right? Secondly, she said this was, she said your administration needs to take responsibility for what you've done.
Don't even go there.
At what point in this interview has she taken responsibility for anything that he's
and she said it's like throwing rocks from a glass house. Like, baby? What if old folks said when you need them? Honey, you need to shut your mouth. You talking too much. You gonna get yourself in trouble. I'm sorry, go ahead. I want to make one more point, but go ahead. I'll let you go first.
No, it's just, again, it goes back to the whole gaslighting, and she's accusing Trump of not caring about the American people. Trump's not the one trying to pump tons of tax, people paying tax towards things like, gender reassignment surgery.
Yes.
Right. Like that's a non-issue. That's what the Democrats are doing.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
That's not what Trump is doing. That's not what he's standing for. But that's what she's trying to blame him for and trying to make it a non-issue. This is me trying to follow Kamala's logic.
Right.
All right. And clearly there really is nothing there.
But go ahead.
Yeah. No, it's a joke. I think this is one of those points in the interview yesterday where she was caught out. She didn't really have an answer, and whenever she doesn't have an answer, she brings up Orange Man.
Yeah,
right. Convenient.
Orange Man bad.
And Orange Man bad. That's right. So that was just a classic case of that again.
So there's a couple of things that happened in that whole interview. Guys, do you have the image of the still of that? I wanted to bring up. Otherwise, I just play the clip and I just want to pause it because I'm sorry to make y'all watch this again. But the other thing not this one, the other one. While you guys find it, the framing that I was talking about from the whole thing. One of the things I wish Bret would have asked again. I only had two things. I'm not going to pick on Bret because he did a great job. But one of them would have been, do you want to change the law?
Yeah. Do you think that's a good law?
Do you think, so we got you saying this, and you said, I'm going to follow the law. That has nothing to do with what you want to do.
One of our listeners said she should have responded with, I was raised in the middle class.
she done burnt that one out already. That one didn't work so well.
Yeah.
But do you want to change it? Because what inside of that ad that Trump played, he got her on a Hot 97.5 was the Charlemagne.
Yeah.
They were talking about this. They were like, yo, we don't want the money. This is the black community. This is one of the most pop stations ever. Everybody knows, this is a direct connection to the black community.
Yeah.
And they're like, yo, we don't want that.
We don't want this.
We don't want our tax dollars going to transgender surgeries.
Yeah.
And so she caught flat-footed on that one completely. And I just would have said, yo, is this something you want to do if you could?
Yeah.
If Congress came and said, hey, we want to do this, would you support that? I just would have pushed on it.
Yeah,
you guys have the image of the frame of the shot with her?
I don't think they do.
I don't think. Okay, go ahead. I want to play the video. Let's play the video from her, this last one, because I want to point this out. This is really important for the framing of the narrative. Yep.
Supports taxpayer-funded sex changes for prisoners.
Surgery.
For prisoners.
That's
for
a man,
prisoners.
right?
That's a
Every
dude.
transgender
That's a dude.
inmate in the prison system would have access.
It's a transform that they're
Yeah,
at.
yeah.
Okay, pause.
So
No, keep going. Keep going. No, this
Okay.
is not. Oh, yeah, pause here.
support-
Pause here. This is great. I just want everybody to know the framing of this real quick. Now, I'm going to make a point about this. Notice that they're eye to eye here. Notice where they're sitting at. They're eye to eye. Her eye line, his eye line, roughly the same.
Yeah.
Okay, just keep this in your head for a second. Hit play.
Of using taxpayer dollars to help prison inmates or detained illegal aliens.
Okay,
to
pause. You see how big he is in the frame?
Yeah.
You see how large he is in the frame?
Yeah.
How much of the frame he fills up from the center to the edges?
Yeah.
Okay, keep that in your head. Hit pause.
Position to another gender.
I will follow the
Pause.
law.
This is amazing to me. Okay, so I'm a filmmaker. I work with cameras. I work with framing. I work with compositions all the time. Fox wasn't playing with this one. Fox wanted to communicate something. I'm going to tell you who didn't set up the cameras on this. Her staff.
Right.
Because there's no way if I was Kamala's staff, would I ever let her look this small in the frame.
Yeah.
She is small. She looks helpless. She looks weak. And if you look at Bret from his over shoulder,
he still looks big.
He's huge. He's massive. And he's filling up all the same amount, more frame than she is. And notice her eye line is looking up now. They move the cameras in such a way to make her look small and insignificant, make him look big, and make her look up. And this is not an accident.
Right.
Nothing about this is an accident. They are communicating something to you about who she is, who they believe she is. And somebody behind this is telling a whole nother narrative than what's being talked about on the front. And I don't think they're wrong. And everything about this interview can be summed up in this shot right here.
Yeah, that's interesting, Knox.
She's small. She's frail. She can't handle the big boy stuff. She can't handle a man's world because this is a man's world. And this is what you're going to have to deal with when you're dealing with leaders on the other side. This is how the rest of the world is going to view her. Right? They're telling you everything. They should have never, Kamala's staff should have lost their whole minds to the point they should have saw this framing, went over and moved the cameras while the interview was going on. They should have never let that happen.
Kicked out camera C.
Kicked out camera C. I would have knocked that thing over. Like, we ain't doing this interview like that. They ain't making me look insignificant. They they gave her the earrings. They should have been watching the framing. Hit play.
And it's a law that Donald Trump actually followed.
Look how small she is here too, compared to Bret.
Yeah.
She doesn't seem powerful. She does. It's the same thing. This was a brilliant move by Fox to do this, and it doesn't seem like as much. But when you watch his interview, you can. She doesn't have it, and they set up their angles to match
how
the
they
kind
put
of
a kitchen behind her. They got the American flag on the left, kitchen on the right.
They set up their angles to make sure that they communicated the story that they wanted to tell. We did an interview with Ted Cruz before.
Yeah,
right.
Back in 2015, November of 2015,
he was running for president.
Ted Cruz and Ben Carson were number 1 and number 2. Wow. And I scored this. We hadn't even started CrossPolitic yet.
I don't know how you
we
scored
were nothing.
this.
I scored the interview with them, saying that I was a political blogger. That's all I had at that point. I wasn't even really blogging.
That's okay.
Anyway, so I scored this interview with Ted and Ben down in Jackson Hole, Wyoming.
Yep.
Darren Doan paid for us to fly down there because he wanted some of the
Free
footage.
Speech Apocalypse.
Yeah, Free Speech Apocalypse. You guys, if our audience, if you guys never seen Free Speech Apocalypse,
it is so
you got to see it.
necessary right now.
And so me and Knox traveled down to Jackson Hole, Wyoming. Our first interview was it Ben Carson was our first interview? Was that the second interview? Was Ted the first?
It was Ben Carson was the first.
Ben Carson was the first. And the contrast between each campaign was hilarious. Ben Carson's manager takes us to a room, and we get in this room. It's a smaller room. And Ben Carson comes in, he shakes our hands, the manager leaves. So it's literally just me, Knox, and Ben Carson in the room.
Let me just add something to that too. I remember that there's a door on one side of the room that leads out to the kitchen. So you can just go all the way out. And I just wanted to see, I just walked it to see if it went to an exit. It did, and there was no security whatsoever there at all.
I mean,
then
Carson
another
was
door.
number 1 or number, I think he's number 2.
And,
Ted was 1.
number 2.
Yeah,
and then the other guy, his security, which was like 6'4" guy, was out there on his cell phone sitting down chilling. And I told Gabe, I was like, they don't believe he's going to win anything.
No. Yeah.
Like, they're not protecting him at all.
Ben Carson's sports coat was kind of lopsided a little bit on his shoulder.
Had dandruff all on it.
He had dandruff on it.
His collar of his shirt was uneven.
It was uneven, unbuttoned, like just not polished. Yeah. And that's his staff felt. It's not his. Right.
If he had staff.
If he had staff, yeah. Well, his campaign manager came in and left. I was shocked that they left. They left us there with Ben all by ourselves for like 15 minutes. So anyways, we interviewed Ben. And then the next day we were interviewing Trump.
Ted Cruz.
Ted Cruz, excuse me. Ted Cruz.
I wish we had that interview with
Trump. That'd have been great. Yeah. We interview Ted Cruz. and we go to this larger room. So we're in a bigger room. You remember the bigger room? And he had just gotten out of a meeting or an interview with someone else. I think it might have been local news. So Knox, as we're waiting outside to be invited in. Very different scenario. Knox is telling me, he's like, all right, when we get in there, I'm going to turn on the cameras immediately. That's why you're kind of getting situated. I'm going to turn on the cameras because once the cameras go on, they'll do whatever we say.
Yep.
And so sure enough, and then Knox said, what they're going to do is they're going to tell you where to stand.
Yep.
They're going to tell you to stand, not to sit, because it's harder to get out of an interview when you're sitting versus standing. They're going to do this, this, and this. Knox called the whole play. We get in there and they immediately start telling me where to stand.
Immediately.
They immediately start telling us, you want to get the money shot of Cruz. You want this side of the face. That's his money shot. So they know the money shots. They got them all brushed up. They got them all polished. His suit's all looking good and all that stuff. Knox turns on the cameras, and then I'm not lying. I said I'm deaf in one ear.
That's our only hope.
That's our only hope to start manipulating the situation in the room. And I said I need to sit here. I can't stand. I need to sit here so I can better hear Ted Cruz.
They're like, nah, we can't do that. I remember the guy saying, yeah, we're not going to do that. Ted needs to be on this side. This is the money shot. And I said, oh, don't be that guy. Don't be the guy who makes the deaf handicapped dude be on the wrong side of the room. And Ted jumped in and says, guys, I'll just take. That's cool.
I'll sit down.
I'll sit down and I'll take that side.
I'll sit down. That's hilarious how it all played out because I really did have to stay. They wanted me to stand on this side of him. I really had to stand on this side because that's my good ear would be facing him all that stuff.
Yeah.
And so we get in the interview. It's about a 15-minute interview, and we're pushing him on abortion. And the question I was asking,
he was avoiding.
Yeah,
he just avoided answering.
I was asking, and I said, okay, what we know now about the Civil War?
Yep.
6 million died in the Civil War, and given the fact that we've had 50, 60 million babies die from abortion. Why should we not go to war over abortion like we did the Civil War? That was the question. It's a jamming question. It's a jam.
It's a jam.
It's a jam question. We get into this interview. We're going back and forth, and then my cameraman Knox jumps into the interview. And
they don't like me anymore.
No. And so the black cameraman, we're talking about slavery, abortion. The black cameraman jumps in. And I forget, what was your question?
You know what? It's actually inside the club content if you want to watch
Is it in the club content? You guys should go. The whole point is, though, about how they stage and frame, and they know every detail. It's all intentional in how they frame out interviews.
Every bit of it. Every single thing is thought through.
Details, the room, the side, the money shot, the facial, everything. Stand so we can get out of here quicker.
This tells me when I see stuff like this, if she continues to do this, either they reprimand somebody over this, but it looks like to me they know they're in a losing war right now, and they're forgetting the things that they need to remember in order to look good to the audience. And so I think this is kind of like, ooh, you guys are having massive chinks in your armor if you're going to let Fox, which you should have been on your P's and Q's about, right? You let them frame you like that. That's not an insignificant thing. That's a massive thing because how you appear to the public when you're running to be the president of the United States actually matters.
I mean, it's been interesting to see how they've actually spinned the story after this. I mean, immediately her campaign went and talked about.
Oh, that's really good. Yes,
it was like a show of strength for her to even show up to Fox.
Yes,
and do the interview. I don't think they really cared, or at least, again, this is how they're framing it, because I think it probably went a lot worse than they even anticipated, right?
Oh, yeah.
Otherwise, you wouldn't have had handlers going crazy, waving their hands in a crazy way. They're trying to frame it as this is a show of bravery. So they're trying to frame this on the basis of appearance more than actual substance, right? Like it's just the fact that she showed up was
a win
for her. And I've actually I saw some clips as well of them talking about how Trump wasn't willing to do this. Which it's crazy. So you can see that they knew that this was not a good interview. Right. And so they're trying to spin it a different way and tell a different story about how this actually went. And with the help of mainstream media as well. New York Times did not waste time trying to get on that. The who's who. CNN didn't waste time trying to reframe what this was really about. So yeah, they were applauding her for showing up. None of those networks actually went into the substance of what she said, or even just how it looked, right?
No.
They've really been campaigning hard on just her being able to show up, so.
Was that all you guys
That's
gave?
it,
Oh,
man.
because I know
That's
you
it.
had some more clips.
Yep.
Pastor Toby, we do miss you, but Lennox, we're so grateful that you joined us today. Any last words before we go?
Yeah, I mean, I think just the last thing I was gonna say is one of the things that kept coming to mind as I was listening to Kamala on the interview was that idea of live not by lies.
Oh yeah,
and I kept thinking to myself, like, would this change the outcome of the election in a few weeks? I'm like, well, when you have a populace that has been conditioned, whether it's through public education or media, to live by lies, they don't care whether Kamala was telling the truth or whether she was lying.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
And
That's
of course, that
right.
doesn't mean that we should stop. We should be exposing this as much as possible. And I think training people
And hold Trump to the truth,
and
too.
hold Trump to
That's
the
our
truth
side,
as well.
yeah.
Absolutely.
I think a lot of us have.
Yeah.
I think a lot of
Yeah.
Christians have come up and said, you know what, like
I've seen that.
There's this,
Yeah,
this,
yeah.
and this.
I've seen that.
well, it's like
Not
Trump.
good
Trump
here.
is,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but as far as like she's not even on the Richter scale of an option.
Yeah.
Not even close.
Yeah.
But I mean, and this is one of the things that's hard for us in some ways. I mean, people argue against no enemies to the right or whatever, but this is hard for us because we do have a standard. We do care about truth. We do
Right.
care about honesty. We do care
Right.
about righteousness. And so we're going to have to critique those people who are not promoting those things because that's what the
Absolutely.
standard is. It's
Absolutely.
not the guy,
Yes.
right? It's the morality of it. It's the righteousness of it because there really is a king. His name
Absolutely.
is Jesus.
Amen.
He's the standard for what right, true, and good is. And when you listen and submit and obey to him, you get a country and you get a nation of human flourishing. And if you don't listen to him, you get judgment and you get more of what we got in Kamala Harris for the last 3 years. If you're single, get married. If you're married, have you some kids. And if you have kids, go baptize them. Until tomorrow, love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Love your neighbor as yourself. Go fight, laugh, and feast. This is CrossPolitic.
Legacy media is falling apart, and as it crumbles, a void is opening, a void that we intend to fill. The big legacy news networks currently average just 1.2 million viewers a weeknight, and those numbers are only going to get lower. Legacy media is dying, and the younger generation has moved on. Legacy media panders. Legacy media lies. Legacy media does not know what the truth is, and they don't care about it. Legacy media is a dumpster fire. This is why we few in our wild imaginations have started the Fight Laugh Feast Network. Our goal is to take down the legacy media giant of the last 50 years with our 5 stones. We started in 2016 with our flagship show, CrossPolitic. Since those small beginnings, we now air on DirecTV. Our broader podcast network now gets over 4 million downloads a year. And our Fight Laugh Feast pub, which includes TV shows like This America, The Rowdy Christian's Guide, Pastors in Politics, and As the Lord Pleases, with your support, many more to come. Our goal is to become the flagship new media 2.0 network over the next 50 years and take over nightly news, sports, sitcoms, hunting shows, and more, all conveniently stored for you in our Fight Laugh Feast pub. We're already reaching the next generation through our podcast shows on YouTube, X, and our pub, while also tapping into legacy media audiences by airing our shows on TV through DirecTV and Xfinity. We have made a lot of progress with some duct tape and a good bit of intuition and a lot of sweat. And now we need your support more than ever. The TV networks have had such a negative impact on our households, and we're trying, by the grace of God, to put a stop to that. We have the opportunity. We just need the army. Now more than ever, we need you to join our pub to help us reach our goal of 1 million pub supporters in the next 5 years. There's no way around it. Competing with Fox and the Alphabet networks without money is virtually impossible. It's cheap for you to join. And when you do, you're combining your small monthly support with a growing army of like-minded Christians. We have thousands, we need millions. So if you want more of the Alphabet network's misinformation and lies, don't join. But if you want to give us a mere 5 stones, then please join the pub, and together we will take a swing at the head of big media, all the while fighting, laughing, and feasting to the glory of God.